All right, today we're talking about something that's way more than just a movie. We're rewinding the clock, going all the way back to the very beginning of a cinematic giant to look at its first ever feature film, a true piece of history called Raja Harishchandra.
And that line, it just nails it, doesn't it? We're not here to do a simple movie review. No, this is the origin story, the birth of one of the biggest, most incredible film industries in the entire world.
So right off the bat, to really get this film, we've got to shift our perspective. Think of it less as a piece of entertainment and more as this huge, pivotal cultural moment. This is where the story of Indian cinema really begins.
And that's a pretty wild question to think about, right? What do you see when you look at a nation's very first film? You're not really looking for amazing special effects or Oscar-worthy acting by today's standards. What you're looking for is that first spark, that tiny seed that a whole industry sprouted from.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to put it. You kind of have to put on a different set of glasses to watch Raja Harishchandra. It's almost like being an archaeologist who's just unearthed some ancient foundational artifact. The difference is, this is a piece of history you can actually watch.
Okay, so how on earth did something like this even get made back then? I mean, this wasn't some big studio pouring millions of dollars into it. Nope. This was basically one person's vision, a wild, daring experiment.
Let's just pause on that date for a second. 1913. You have to remember, cinema itself was still a toddler, barely 20 years old anywhere. So to even think about making a full-length movie in India at that time, that wasn't just ambitious, it was borderline crazy. And this is the film that lit the fuse. The man behind it all was Dadasaheb Phalke, who we now call the father of Indian cinema. And get this, he wasn't just the director. He was the producer, the writer, the editor, the cameraman. I mean, he was basically a one-man film studio.
And that just shows you the sheer scale of what he pulled off. This wasn't some committee-led project with a huge budget. It was one guy's passion project, an experiment that didn't just work, it exploded. And in doing so, it literally gave birth to what we know today as Bollywood and so much more.
So, okay, it was the first. That's a huge deal. But what else is there? What makes it legendary? Why are we still talking about it more than 100 years later? Let's dig into that.
Well, it's not just one single thing, that's for sure. The film's power is this amazing mix of things. You've got the mind-blowing fact that it was even made back then, a classic mythological story that everyone knew, the sheer creative genius of Phalke, and a visual style that was just steeped in Indian culture.
And this is where it gets really impressive. You can just see the pioneer in him. He had to import all the filmmaking gear from Europe. Then he had to build his own studio from the ground up. And then he had to teach himself how to do special effects, which was, the most high-tech thing around at the time.
Seriously, just try to picture it. You're in an audience in 1913. You've maybe never even seen a movie before. And suddenly, on screen, gods are appearing and disappearing out of thin air, thanks to some clever camera tricks and a bit of smoke. It must have felt like actual magic.
Okay, so obviously watching a film from 1913 is not going to be like watching the latest blockbuster. It needs a little bit of context. So let's adjust our focus a bit and look at the parts that, well, they definitely feel like they're from 1913.
And this really breaks it down nicely. On one hand, you have these incredible strengths that still hold up. But on the other hand, you've got things that are just products of that era, The pacing is, well, it's silent film pacing. The acting is very theatrical. And then there's a big kind of sad practical issue. And that issue is this. The heartbreaking truth is, most of the film is gone, lost forever. Something like 3/4 of it has just vanished over the decades, so when you watch it today, you're only seeing the fragments that survived. It really drives home that idea of it being an artifact, doesn't it?
And when you do watch those surviving bits, you'll probably notice the acting seems really, really dramatic. Big gestures, long poses. That's because film language hadn't been invented yet. Phalke was borrowing everything from the theater, which was all people knew. It made perfect sense back then. But to us, yeah, it can look a bit slow.
All right, so we've looked at the good, the dated. We've weighed its amazing strengths against its limitations. So what's the verdict? What's the real value of this film for us, today?
And that's really the big question, isn't it? I mean, we live in a world where you have literally millions of things to watch at your fingertips. Why would you spend time on a 40-minute, silent, incomplete film from 1913?
The answer is simple, really. You watch it to witness the origin story. It's not about watching a movie. It's about witnessing a moment in time. You are literally watching the birth of Indian cinema.
And this quote just says it all, perfectly. Look, it's not going to give you the same thrills as a modern blockbuster, but it moves you in a totally different way. It's this deep sense of awe. Awe at the ambition, the history, the sheer weight of what you're looking at.
So, who should check this out? Well, if you're a film history buff, this is a must-see. If you're a student of Indian culture or mythology, absolutely. And honestly, if you're just curious to see how cinema started in a place that wasn't Hollywood, this is your ticket. And that's really the final thought I want to leave you with. In our world, a world just saturated with digital effects and massive spectacles, a film like this takes us back to the very core of what makes movies magic. It's about that simple, powerful, profound act of showing people something they have never, ever seen before.